Most outsiders see Australia as a beautiful country, filled with sunny beaches and incredible wildlife. But like every country around the world, Australia also has a dark past filled with disturbing events and horrifying crimes. I myself live in the city of Melbourne, which has had its fair share of crime and tragedy. Recently, while watching the news, I was disturbed to hear that a bag of bones appearing to be human had been disposed of at a thrift store only 5 minutes from my house, which they are now investigating. This not only made me feel extremely uneasy, but also made me wonder what other dark secrets lurk in my backyard. Today, let's examine 5 of the creepiest unsolved mysteries from Australia. Number 5. Luna Park Ghost Train Fire. In June 1979, a family sat and waited for a ferry to take them to Luna Park, a well-known amusement park in Sydney. John and Jenny Godson had been looking forward to this occasion for some time and had wanted to treat their 2 young boys to an exciting outing. The family had just finished visiting Taronga Zoo, after which time they decided to proceed to Luna Park, where they had a ball trying out all of the various rides. Later on that evening, the family decided to enjoy one last ride with their 5 remaining tickets before returning home. The 2 sons wanted to try the ghost train, and so they made their way to the ride with their father while their mother ventured off on a short walk for ice cream. On making her way back, she would be confronted with her worst nightmare. Rather than being met with a husband and young children enjoying the ghost train, she was faced with billowing smoke coming from the ghost train while it was hurtling around the track, with the park staff attempting frantically to remove people each time it charged through the tunnel. Tragically, neither Jenny's husband nor children ever made it off alive. A long while after the tragic event, Jenny happened upon some photographs which had been taken on that life-shattering day, and one in particular transfixed her attention. The picture was of her son Damien, the last picture of him alive ever to be taken. Chillingly, however, is the figure that stands next to him, a harrowing figure adorned with a sinister-looking mask with horns protruding from its head. The man in the photo was never able to be located. Later, comparisons of the figure seem to suggest that it portrays a symbolic resemblance to the ancient demonic deity known as Moloch. Moloch is regarded in ancient religious teachings as an entity desiring the burning of children for sacrifice in his name. Does this finding suggest some kind of malicious tampering to bring about this catastrophe, as a sacrifice of human life to this ancient deity? Or was it, as many people believe, a deliberate act of arson resulting from a business dispute? Jenny Godson has always maintained that an evil force had been at work on that day. All the while, the mystery of the horned masked man's identity remains. Number 4. Disappearance of Rhianna Barreau. In October 1992, Rhianna Barreau, aged 12 years old, had been planning to walk to the nearby mall in South Australia to buy a card for her pen pal in the United States. Usually she would have taken the bus, but on this occasion there was a strike and Rhianna didn't want to wait. Her mother agreed to let her go to the mall and wished her goodbye before heading off to work. Rhianna was witnessed by people walking along Highway Drive shortly before lunchtime. This is the last time she would be seen by anyone. When Rhianna's mother returned home that afternoon, she found the card for her daughter's pen pal lying on the table in the dining area and a record resting on the ground. The TV was blasting in one of the rooms. When she called Rhianna's name, she received no reply, urging Ms. Barreau to start looking for her. She first checked the inside of the house, then the outside, but there was no sign of her. She then went to the neighbours asking them if they had seen Rhianna at all throughout the day. none of them had. The police were contacted, but Rhianna would never be found or heard from again, and her fate remains unknown to this day. In 2015, an attempt to shed light on this 2-decade-old cold case was made when police offered up to $1 million reward to anyone able to provide reliable information concerning Rhianna Barreau's disappearance. However, nothing would come from this either. All of these years later, Ms. Barreau continues to live in the same house in the hope that her daughter may one day return, or at least to provide some semblance of closure. Number 3. Mr. Cruel. In 1988 and 1990, Sharon Wills, aged 10, and Nicola Linus, aged 13, were respectively kidnapped from their homes. After 18 hours being held captive, Sharon was let go, and after 50 hours, so was Nicola. The descriptions given by the two girls promptly led the police to believe that the same individual had been behind a whole string of other abductions and acts of violence on many other girls and boys within the suburbs of Hampton and Lower Plenty near Melbourne, Victoria. The perpetrator was dubbed Mr. Cruel and was also suspected by the Victoria Police to have been responsible for a house intrusion in Templestowe in 1991, in which a young girl by the name of Carmaine Chan, also aged 13, had been abducted. Unfortunately, however, she wouldn't survive the ordeal and would be murdered by Mr. Cruel in a brutal shooting. Her remains would not be found until a full year after her abduction. Due to the limited evidence in Carmaine's case, police have been unable to substantiate their suspicions that Mr. Cruel had perpetrated the murder, but he is considered to be the primary suspect. In 2013, Victoria Police were still refining a list of over 20 suspects. Each suspect had been revisited in their homes. 2 years before the disappearance of another girl called Sarah Horn Siraboon whilst walking to school in Barreau, she is still missing. A key suspect named Robert Keith Knight would commit suicide in 2013 before facing charges of possessing child pornography. However, the complete absence of any DNA or other forensic trace evidence have made any attempt to identify Mr. Cruel impossible. Number 2. Rackman. On August the 11th, 1994, Mark Peterson, a fisherman, took off on his boat and slowly made his way up the Hawkesbury River, located a short distance north of Sydney. It looked to be a pleasant day, and after feeling a firm tug on his fishing net, Mark became excited. However, when he pulled his net up and out of the water, it held a heavy chunk of steel, shaped into a crucifix. Bound to it were what looked like human remains. Stunned, Peterson promptly called the police, who upon examining the remains confirmed that they were indeed human. Forensic pathologists determined that the remains were those of a male between the ages of 21 and 41, and that the bones had been arranged anatomically on the crucifix. The entire body of the victim, including his head, had been wrapped in plastic and had wire twisted around it. The identity of the man is still yet to be determined, in part due to his fingerprints having badly decomposed. The unknown man was given the nickname Ragman. Police are continuing to investigate several leads, one of which comes from the public and claims that the Ragman could be Joe Biviano, a known drug dealer who had disappeared in Drummoyne in 1993. The theories suggested the remains could also belong to a Greek businessman called Joe Matrice, who went missing on the mean streets of King's Cross in April 1991. Or even a well-known hitman by the name of Christopher Dale Flannery, who disappeared May 1985. However, the men's dental records were not a match. The police still hope to match the man's DNA from his remains, which are held in the morgue. Number 1. The Pajama Girl. In 1934, a farmer, after having just brought a prize bull, was walking home with it a few kilometres from Albury, on the border between New South Wales and Victoria, when a large object in a stormwater pipe caught his eye. upon investigation, he realised it was a young woman's body, who looked to have been beaten, shot, and burned. She wore yellow pajamas and a towel wrapped around her head. Due to the inability of the police to identify the victim, her body underwent chemical preservation and was made available for display. It would be another 10 years before investigators determined the identity of the murder victim to be Linda Agostini. Although an initial analysis of dental records had come back negative, a follow-up attempt a decade later was able to confirm her identity. Not long after news of this had been announced, Linda's husband confessed to the murder, pleading self-defense, and was sentenced to 10 years in jail. Nevertheless, there remains a distinct possibility that the woman in the yellow pajamas and Linda Agostini weren't in fact the same person at all. In his book titled The Pajama Girl Mystery, Richard Evans claims that the two women did not share the same eye colour, breast size, or nose shape. A play was even written about the murder called The Pajama Girl, which incorporated these same claims. If this is indeed true, then the identity of the woman in the yellow pajamas, as well as the fate of Linda Agostini, will continue to remain a mystery.